Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I am your host, Michael Hansen. I do all things with microphones because I am a ring announcer and cage announcer. I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two friends who bring MMA punditry to new heights, dare I say. Introducing to you first, from the hellscape of New York, Marc Priaulx. What's up, buddy? Tell us what's going on.
Dude, it is fucking crazy here. So, this first hit, I guess it was here in the morning, because I remember the sun did look weird. It was like very foggy. But I just thought like, oh, foggy morning. And then I was in the city yesterday, and I was outside at lunch, and it was fairly normal. Like, I forgot it was even foggy, really. And then when I left work at like 6 o'clock, I worked out with two other dudes, and it hit us in the face so much. We hadn't seen like the news yet because we were just inside working, that we thought a building near our building must have been on fire. That's how smoky and how strong the smell of smoke was. So we're like trying to look around, trying to see what's going on. And there's sirens, I guess, coincidentally going on. So we're like, oh, there's definitely a fire. Gradually, we figured out that there's these wildfires in Canada. And even still, we're like, all right, like, I'm sure that's a thing, but that's not what we're smelling right now. Like, this is something that's right here. Right. And long story short, it wasn't. Like, it's that strong in New York all the way from Canada. And yesterday was just the sight and the smell being wild. But, like, it didn't feel bad to be outside. It was just like, wow, it's really smoky out here. Today, it felt horrible to be outside. Wow. I walked a 1-minute walk to a corner deli, and I, like, gasped for air when I entered the deli. That's how uncomfortable it was. Yeah, they said every 10 minutes you spent outside was the equivalent of smoking one cigarette.
Holy shit.
It was fucking nuts. And
when is this going to clear up?
Yesterday was like gray smoky. Today was yellow. Like everything was yellow. The whole outside was yellow. It was fucking wild.
Whoa.
And you didn't even have to be high up to see it. Like first floor window, looking out the window, it was yellow.
Mike, have you seen any pictures of any of this stuff?
Of course. So where, like, why is Canada on fire?
I don't know. I don't know enough. I haven't had enough time to like look more into it. But yeah.
It's weird. It's like I mean, it's been hot here in Michigan. And I'm pretty close. I'm actually more north than some parts of Canada.
Right. Well, it's the weather patterns that are causing the smoke to go
right.
Like it's the actual wind and how the currents of the wind actually work. So normally that'd be some goddamn, either updraft or whatever the hell that usually like that pattern is normal for the wind, but the amount of smoke and the amount of perpetual smoke that's going over thousands of miles at this point, because New York is not the only place that's getting affected. A lot of it is like parts of the Midwest too, like Ohio and some of those other states in that area as well.
I was wondering if Mike was seeing or not. Peep the two pictures I just sent you. It's the GW Bridge on a normal day and the GW Bridge today.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that was the first one I just sent you guys. Was of my buddies at work.
Oh, I didn't even see yours. Yours is crazy too. You see what I mean?
Dude, it looks like
it was literally just yellow.
People are saying it looks like Mars. Other people are saying it looks like the end of days, which you can't really argue with. It looks pretty bad.
It does. Do you think
it looks pretty fucked up?
Do you think my flights are going to get canceled?
I'm surprised that they haven't.
Know.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, it's literal like coverage, like smoke coverage all over the entire city. They
canceled baseball games tonight. We were supposed to go into the city tomorrow, and my company nixed it. They were like, "No one go outside. Just stay home, work from home." Yeah. So, like, I don't really know what's going on with travel, to be quite honest.
I mean, the people that are really fucked are a lot of the homeless folks that are outside. They don't really have anywhere else to go. A lot of people that might not have, like, air purifiers and stuff like that in their homes and air conditioners and things like that. I mean, there are a lot of issues that are probably going to arise from the amount of smoke that's in the air right now that people are just ingesting on a second-by-second basis.
Dude, I keep thinking about, if this is what it's like in New York, if it's uncomfortable for me to be outside for more than a couple minutes, what the fuck does it feel like in Canada?
Right. That's a great point.
I mean, there's got to be, if it's a still active fire, it's got to be like plumes, like big, heavy plumes of smoke. I just realized I didn't have my microphone in front of me.
I was gonna say your audio just got way sexier.
Yeah. Sorry for being so low, folks. 4 minutes in, we caught it early.
But yeah, it's nuts, Mike. You should definitely check on it.
Yeah.
I'm actually messaging the Warriors Cup guys right now. This is live, guys. This is live, even though our show is recorded.
I don't know if they're saying like by tomorrow it's supposed to roll out, or if they're saying like tomorrow's going to be same as today. I really haven't looked at shit.
I wonder if they even know, because I don't know if those wildfires actually done, or
That's
are they
what I
still
mean.
burning?
I don't know if they're done. I don't know if like the weather pattern has almost moved through. I don't know. I haven't been able to look at anything. I just haven't had any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Damn.
wild. They closed everything here today. Like kids didn't go outside for recess. Like people who worked outside jobs, a lot of them got shut down. It was crazy.
Okay, and introducing from Florida, the how appropriate, the Sunshine State, Omar Artola. What's up, bud? Do you miss New York these days?
I got to be honest. This was one of those moments where I was like, "Fuck, I'm really glad I'm not up there right now." It is crazy. I called my mom.
Pictures so the people watching could know what the fuck we're talking about.
I'll post it. I'll post it in the.
There's GW Ridge on a regular day,
Right.
and this is New York currently.
Yeah, I'll post it in
anyone who
the
does not.
as part of the video. I'll just stitch it in there so people have an idea of what they're looking at,
Yeah,
of what we're looking at. But yeah, I had to call my mom, make sure that everybody was good over there, and she's like, "I ain't going nowhere. I'm staying at home." So yeah, it's some wild shit. But if it wasn't for the news, I'd have no idea. There's no inkling of it, obviously, all the way down here in Florida. So I'm just glad everybody seems to be dealing with it as best as humanly possible.
Yeah, man. Well, I am on the eve of a big weekend, as long as travel plans don't get canceled because of this crazy, if we can call it weather, this crazy event with the wildfires. But I have for the first time ever in my ring announcing career, I have a 2-show weekend. So tomorrow I fly to New York and do Warriors Cup Muay Thai. Going to be announcing some fights, some WBC belts, Warriors Cup belts, Gamma belts.
Warriors Cup is tomorrow or Friday?
Friday.
Okay.
But I fly tomorrow.
Right, gotcha.
I always try to go a day early just in case I get fucked by the airlines. Got to leave a cushion.
And you might.
Or the Canadian smoke.
And then really fun thing is, the show usually gets out around midnight, 1 a.m., is that I'm going to wake up at like 5 and fly to Milwaukee to do Anthony Pettis on Sunday. So I'm just really glad that
your eyes.
Warriors Cup always books shows on Friday, and it seems like APFC has been doing Sundays a lot. So if it was like the next day, I don't think it would be possible. But yeah, man.
Oh wait, I missed that. APFC is Sunday, not Saturday.
Sunday, but I fly on Saturday. I'm going to get there on Sunday and do the weigh-ins.
Nice.
Damn, there's no real like in between though. Like you're done on Friday and you're just like, boom, we're out.
Yeah,
it's going to be crazy.
It's wild.
Anyway, there's MMA to talk about this week, gentlemen. We're going to talk about and recap the fights from this past weekend's UFC Fight Night. Cara France versus Albazi. We're going to throw a bunch of these fights into our lightning round. We're going to find out who rose and fell in Mark's very own rankings system that we love and call the Priaulx Rankings after him. We're going to dive deep inside the MMA Sphere with Omar, find out what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cage. And then we're going to look ahead to this weekend's PFL 4, part of their regular season, headlined this weekend by Brennan Loughnane and Pineda, and the massive pay-per-view card UFC 289, Nunes versus Aldana. And then we might end with a little bit of trivia. Before we get into any fight talk, gentlemen, real quick, let us just thank our audience, our viewers, and our listeners. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, hey, thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you guys that come and tune in. We have reached 200 subscribers on YouTube, which is a very, very small number in the world of YouTube. But when you think about it, 200 people have subscribed to our channel, and that's pretty fucking cool. We could fill an auditorium if all of our subscribers showed up. So we appreciate you guys for watching and subscribing and commenting below. We love that friendly dialogue down below talking about our favorite sport. If you want audio only for that commute, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, find us on social media. You can find us at all the places at @andnew_MMA show. With that being said, let us get on with it. This week, the name on the marquee, unfortunately, has got to be, once again, the judging. Because this past weekend, at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, for UFC Fight Night Kara-France versus Albazi, Amir Albazi defeated Kai Kara-France in a very consequential flyweight bout, defeating Kara-France by split decision, earning a 48-47 on 2 of the judges' scorecards. Kara-France earning his own 48-47. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. This has been a controversial split decision, thrusting judging in MMA once again back into sort of the spotlight. Not that we want it to be there, but Mark, let's start with you. Give us your assessment of the fight. Who do you think won this fight, and your assessment of the scorecards?
We're back here again. We're talking about judges instead of talking about fighters. What we should be doing right now is applauding the takedown D and the scramble ability and the technique of Kai Kara-France that guided him to this tough win. We should also be talking about right now how Amir Albazi did show that he has the game to hang with these top guys and that he's okay on the feet with them and that with some tweaks he could be a factor in this division. And instead of doing either of those things, there is no airtime from anyone being spent on complimenting either fighter for anything because we are focusing fully on the judges again because they've thrust themselves into the spotlight and taken it away from the fighters. And honestly, Amir Albazi is getting hate for something that was not even his doing. And Kai is just getting looked at as like poor Kai instead of anyone thinking about the solid performance that he just put on. So the full focus is on the judges. It sucks. They still can't get fights right. I'm not saying it wasn't a close fight because it was a close fight. It's a competitive fight. But in 10-9 round-by-round scoring, you need to win 3 rounds of a 5-round fight to win a fight. And there are only 2 rounds that you can conceivably score for Amir Albazi. So by definition, if there's no 10-8s, of course, which there were not, he cannot win that fight. Yet somehow he did. The only rounds you can score for Amir Albazi are round 2 and round 3. Props to Judge Michael Bell, who has gotten some stuff wrong before, but he did get this one right. You wouldn't think we need to give props for that, but apparently if you're a judge, it was really hard to get this one right, and he did. He scored at 48-47 Kai. He gave Kai 1, 4, and 5. He got it right. Unfortunately, from there, we moved to Sal D'Amato, who, in addition to rounds 2 and 3, also gave Albazi round 1, which is just simply wrong. I'd be more comfortable with Kai getting round 2 and winning this fight 49-46 than I would be with Albazi getting round 1. And then lastly, in the piece de resistance, we moved to the scorecard of Chris Lee, who, in addition to rounds 2 and 3, gave Amir Albazi round 4, where
the slowest round.
0 things. He literally did 0 things in the round. So it makes no sense. Izzy's right. These judges should have to do interviews after the fights and explain themselves because there is currently no check in place, and these guys get to do asinine things with no repercussions. Amir Albazi did not win that fight. 2 experts on MMA decisions did score it for him, which blows my mind. But 9 experts had it 48-47 for Kai, and 10 experts had it 49-46 for Kai. The most common score among experts listed was 49-46 Kai, and yet he loses that fight. Not to mention 92% of the public scored it for Kai. So it's a bad one. Like I said, I personally would be way more comfortable with 49-46 Kai than I am with Albazi winning it. There's no way around it. It's a fuck up. It sucks for Kai Kara-France, and it sort of sucks for Albazi in a way too, to be honest.
Yeah, man. Omar, let's bring you in here. Give us your take of the fight. How did you score? What rounds did you give to whom? And what did you think of the judging?
Normally, when we find ourselves with some of these controversial decisions, we talk about how they're not really robberies, right? Like, they're close fights. You could see how it can go either way. And, you know, a lot of people out here screaming robbery or, you know, shouldn't really be screaming robbery in those situations. Your boy is screaming robbery here. This, I thought, was real bullshit. It was a competitive fight. I don't even know if I would really call it a close fight because I thought the rounds were clear. And I think that there was competitiveness in every single round of the fight. I don't think one guy, you know, blew the other guy out of the water, so to say. But I thought after the rounds, after each individual round, 1 through 5, I thought it was clear who won each round, whether it was Albazi or whether it was Caceres. By the time we got into round 5, I had it 2-2. I had Albazi winning rounds 2 and round 3. I mean, he was picking apart, or at least at the very least, landing the bigger shots in round 2 for sure. And then kind of continued that momentum into round 3. But Caceres was still fighting. He was still fighting a lot of the takedown attempts. Was still doing great work with getting up off the ground and not allowing himself to stay stuck on the ground. And, you know, Albazi was doing everything that he could, so much so that by the time we got to the 4th round, Albazi did nothing because he was gassed. And he just needed a minute to kind of recover. He was still moving around. He was still trying to, you know, not, I guess, be completely useless in that sense, but it gave Caceres the opportunity to move forward, throw shots, land big shots, and kind of get the momentum back in his favor. So I thought the first round was also pretty clear as well. I thought the Albazi, I don't want to say he did nothing in round 1, but everything that mattered in round 1 all came from Caceres.
Yep.
And then by the time we got to the 5th round, if you don't think Caceres won the 5th round, I don't know what you're watching. I don't know how you watch MMA because it's wrong. Caceres, the 5th round, I think, was the most, I think, the easiest round to score out of the entire fight. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's crazy. I think people don't realize how crazy this really is, right? Like, Caceres should have won this fight. He lost out on $100,000. He lost his number 3 spot. He was supposed to probably get a title shot next, you know, potentially. And all of that just went to hell. One quick little burn just because the referee couldn't do anything, or the judges couldn't do anything right. And so, and now the referees, or I keep saying referees, now the judges, after that night, get to go back in their cars, get to drive away, and everything's all good. It sucks. It's the worst. I can't tell you how much I hate it.
You know, it's like every single fight of a fighter's career, no matter where they are positioned on a card, on any given card, whether it's a pay-per-view or a fight night, that is the biggest fight of that fighter's career. And it's not like, even though, this is a fight night, it's not a pay-per-view, it's just a fight night. But it's not like this is a midsummer baseball game between the White Sox and the Cubs or something. That always kind of has a very casual vibe, midsummer baseball. And some good people love that. My point being is to, you know, piggybacking off what you're saying. Caceres lost out on 6 figures worth of more money in his bank account. So that's significant. And his ranking and everything. It sucks, dude. Sucks.
It does.
Yep.
That being said, do you guys think that they're going to treat Caceres, they being the UFC in this case, that they're going to treat Caceres as sort of the rightful winner as they go into matchmaking him from here?
At best, he's probably some kind of backup, right? Like, if something happens to Albazi, maybe they'll pump up Caceres instead and kind of make him maybe the front runner for a situation like that. But they've already made the rankings what they are. Albazi at this point is number 3. I mean, they're gonna deal with what's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That being said, let's segue that right into us matching them up. Mark, let's start with you. What would you do next with? Let's start with the loser here, who we think could be the rightful winner in Caceres at flyweight.
So it's a little hard for me to start with the loser because I feel like my
if you want to start with Albazi,
let me switch it up, because to answer your question, it does feel like they're going to treat Albazi like the winner. I do think they kind of have to. I'm not saying he's going to march right into a title shot. I don't think he should off of that type of win. To me, even though the rankings are not this way. I still think Brandon Royval should be ahead in the pecking order of Amir Albazi. Dana was non-committal on Royval getting the shot against the winner of Moreno and Pantoja. But even if he's not going to, I think it probably just means they're going to make Royval fight Albazi. Yep. So that's my guess there. If Royval is going to just get the shot and Albazi has to fight someone else, I really don't know who that would be. The only other guess I have is like maybe Manel Kopp, since they were prepared to give Kopp a huge fight against Figgy that fell apart. Maybe they say, all right, now it's Albazi. But to segue into Kai, I do think that leaves him sort of out because he doesn't make sense in any of that top scenario. So my guess is maybe like a Matos Nicolau, who just recently lost as well, who's ranked kind of right next to Kai. He's got to bounce back against someone too. So that's not really treating Kai like he won, but I don't think there's really a ton of options aside from something like that for what you can do with Kai right now. Unless, of course, like Omar said, someone gets hurt, and then, yeah, you can say, all right, Kai's going to come in here. But if that's not the case, I don't think he really fits.
Omar, any other ideas?
Yeah, and unfortunately, Mark probably broke it down as best as it's going to get in that division right now. It's kind of a little bit of a shit show. Davidson Figueiredo, I don't think is going to be at 125 anymore, although we keep going back and forth, I think, with some of that stuff. Yeah, trying to figure out where he's going to land.
The last news was that he has redecided he's moving up, but who knows?
Yeah. So even if we take him out of the title picture, Pantoja is pretty much right next in the mix. Albazi basically is right behind him from there, and then Royval from there. So unless you're going to make Royval fight somebody like Albazi and kind of keep that momentum going, there's just going to be a lot of waiting around unless you're going to throw smaller, or less ranked guys at them, which I don't necessarily think anybody really deserves at that point. Royval was winning. Albazi technically won. Car France, I don't think lost, and so I don't really think he should be taking fights that are significantly lower than him. But the problem is he's number 5, so I mean, who do you put him up against? I don't know. It's a real shit show. Maybe we give Car France to Manel Kopp, and we go from there.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anything else you guys want to say in terms of matchups? Want to match up?
We did.
No. You got everybody. That's right.
Judging is bullshit.
Judging is bullshit, man. Let's move on for the sake of time. Man, that sucks. I hate it when judging is like the main topic of conversation.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch live, and I heard it was a robbery, and in my mind I was like, let me watch this. Like, hopefully it's not. And then just to see it, I was like, wow, this fucking blows.
That 4th round, though, that is really something else.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
He literally did nothing in that round. I mean, I don't even know how many strikes he threw, but it was
the strikes themselves, which is not always the whole story, but the strikes themselves were like 25-5, if I remember right. Like, it's not even, and there was no takedown either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, in the co-main event, UFC Fight Night, Car France versus Albazi. Bruce Leroy Caceres gets it done by unanimous decision over his very dangerous opponent in Daniel Pineda. Omar, why don't you start us off? By the way, the scores were 29-28 across the board from the judges on this one. Do you think the judges got this one right? And what was your reaction to Caceres' winning performance?
I gotta be honest, man. As I'm watching that performance, I can't remember what round Pineda won because I feel like Bruce Leroy beat the shit out of that kid for a good majority of that fight. I mean, the body kicks alone were disgusting.
Pineda had his moments.
Yeah.
He was a dog for sure.
Yeah, he out-grappled him for almost the entirety of round 2.
Okay, all right. The stand-up though was wild to me, absolutely wild, and I don't know. I mean, we've always seen an active Alex Caceres. We've always seen a long Alex Caceres. But there was real purpose behind his movements and behind his strikes in this one. He was making a lot of nice quarter turns, a lot of nice body shots, a lot of the reads from the opening of I mean, how many body shots do you need to take before you start blocking any of them? You know what I mean? Pineda was just give me one more, dog. Hit me one more time. And just eating body shot after body shot. And, you know, credit to Pineda for being as tough as he is, because you could see, especially towards the end of that fight, you could see him get hit, and he just stands there like almost like I don't know what name that was, Luke Rockhold like, and just okay, yeah, you got me there, and then just kind of puts his hands back up and just keeps going. And I think it's safe to say 99% of people in that same position would be on the ground, minimum, trying not to puke.
Totally. So
I give credit to Pineda, man, because he ate more than one of those types of body shots, especially in that last round. It was an absolute beating, and not even. I mean, Alex even hit him in the body with punches, and nice, beautiful shovel hooks to the body. They were beautiful reads from Alex Caceres, and maybe he has found something, man. Because to be honest, I think it's probably the best striking we've seen from him, and that's saying something coming off of that win he just had against my boy. What's his name? Help me. Tall kid, kicked me in the face. Thank you. Yes, Julian Erosa. Yeah, and he looked great there. But I thought this was a bit more of a complete story, right? Much more telling as far as over 3 rounds. How can he do with the striking, and what could we really see? And he's made some real improvements, and it's not really necessarily to his technique, but how he executes it. And he looks great. I mean, I'm excited to see what's next. I really didn't see that amount of technique and purpose out of him before this fight. It was great.
Awesome, man. Mark, bringing you in here, what was your reaction of Caceres getting it done by UD?
This was a hell of a fight. I loved this fight. The grappling exchanges in particular were so fun to watch. It was just constant motion. The armbar that Pineda hit in round 1 that Caceres had to wriggle out of was nuts. But I really enjoyed this thing. In our picks, I took the shot on Pineda, and it's mainly because I thought he wouldn't respect Caceres' power and that he would get inside. And in round 1, it certainly did not go that way. Pineda struggled a bit dealing with the range, and honestly, Omar kind of touched on this. I think we may need to realize that Caceres' power has taken a leap. He is hitting dudes hard in a way that he hasn't historically. He's 34 years old right now. Usually guys maybe hit their prime a little before that. I think we're kind of entering the prime of Alex Caceres. It seems like his game is peaking in a lot of ways. But he had Pineda rocked pretty bad in round 1. And then round 2, Pineda did come back. And in that round, it honestly went exactly how I thought it could. Pineda did start crashing inside. He was making sure he closed the range. He took it down. He was using his physicality, and he won that round. It was 1-1. He's got the momentum on his side in round 3, and then just immediately to start round 3 gets fucking wrecked with a body kick. And that sucked away any momentum that he had for himself. Just a massive strike for Caceres, and it changed the whole fight because, as Omar was kind of alluding to, Pineda never really recovered. Like, he ate it, and he was like, I'm still here, but he was not the same guy after that. And then he got hit with a few more and a few more. I mean, there was like 5 to 10 huge shots from Caceres. Not all to the body, but I'm saying in general, huge shots in round 3 that landed for Alex Caceres. And Pineda was just gritting through it. He's a tough friggin' dude. But Caceres got it done, and he looked really, really good. Sort of similar to Omar. I mean, the finish in the last fight was the most gorgeous thing I've probably seen Caceres do. But I might even be more impressed by the performance in this fight. Like, Caceres has always been a guy where I'm like, the right kind of fighter could, Caceres doesn't match up so great with certain kind of guys. And now I'm like, fuck, he's really rounded out this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his scrambles, too, I thought were really interesting. Like, we've seen a Caceres that likes to play on the ground, has no problem playing on his back and things like that. But again, I thought he had a lot more purpose here, right? Like, if you watch, every time he went down to the ground, he was always trying to get on top, trying to get an advantageous position so that he could start raining down punches. At no point was he, like, not doing something from top. He was continuously trying to strike and continuously trying to land damage. So I don't know what's changed with him. I really don't. Maybe it's a mental thing. Maybe it's something he's finally gotten clicked. Maybe he joined a gym that works or a coach that works for him. Whatever it is, it like Mark said, this might be the peaking of Alex Caceres. This might be his time. So we'll have to keep an eye on what's next for him because he looked great, man.
Yeah, he's won 7 out of 8. Like, that's a quiet 7 out of 8. You know he's been winning, but, like, 7 out of 8 is a lot.
Yeah, but he's starting to beat guys, too, that have a little bit more... Like, he's always been there, right? He's always been there. He's always, been fighting. But, the resume, while long, isn't necessarily very strong, right?
Agree.
Right.
I don't even have him ranked. I have him 22. The
But
UFC has him jumped up.
He's stringing together people who have some names, right? They're not like high up on the list, but these guys have a little bit more name value than I think some of the other guys if you look down his resume list here and there. Yep. So,
right.
He's got to keep winning, man. He's another one of these guys sometimes that has a bad habit of getting to a big moment and shitting the bed. So I'm hoping that he gets that big moment once again because he's gotten a few, but I just hope this time around he can capitalize and make the best of it.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about where we would match him up with, who he would match up with next at featherweight in the UFC. Omar, give me a name for Mr. Bruce Leroy. Is it time for him to kind of jump up and take a pretty big fight?
I would imagine so. I mean, I would think that at this point he's probably knocking on the top 15. I don't think he's there yet.
He's ranked. He's 15.
Oh, wow.
Did they rank him?
He was ranked going into that fight. He was 15 going into that fight. And he's still 15 today. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I was saying, that I have him lower than the UFC does, yeah.
Okay. Oh, son of a bitch, that threw me all the way off. Because I was going to have him... Hang on a second. Mark, why don't you go first? Get in there.
So, it's tough because I'm almost second-guessing myself because we're talking about this run he's on and how maybe he deserves a name, but it's really hard at featherweight because if you look at these UFC rankings, he's 15. All 14 names above him are like, oh, fuck, that dude is, like, really legit. So it's kind of, I don't know that it feels like he should be fighting one of them quite yet. So I feel a little bit bad. I think I'm going to make him win one more fight to fight one of these guys. Lerone Murphy, who is still undefeated, is fighting Josh Coulibaugh. They're both, in my own rankings, ranked very close to Alex Caceres. I think the winner of Murphy and Coulibaugh could make sense for Caceres' next fight. And then the winner of that one gets themselves into a big one. I don't know. It's too hard for me to say Caceres should already be fighting like a fucking Bryce Mitchell or someone. I don't know.
That's where I'm at, baby.
Yeah.
Give him Thug Nasty.
If you had to pick one, like that's who it feels like it could be. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he's going to fight Movsar at this point. I mean, is Evloev really going to wait for Bryce Mitchell to figure out whatever it is that's happening? I mean, they had to reschedule that fight, like a month ago, I want to say now at this point, maybe a little bit longer.
Yep.
So Evloev, I'm assuming, wants to get moving and get his shit going. And with Alex Caceres just finishing his fight now, I think there's probably timeline-wise things that make more sense for him to fight Bryce going forward as opposed to Evloev.
Okay, what about Daniel Pineda? Gents.
He ain't ranked.
I will say if Nate the Train loses to Dan Ige this weekend, which we're going to talk about in a little while, I think that Pineda and Landwehr is a crazy fight that I would love to see. And honestly, I guess if Ige loses that fight, that could work just the same. So I guess I'll say whoever loses that fight for Pineda.
Love it. Omar?
I guess just because of Pineda's style and the violence that occurs and the fact that he's coming off a loss, why don't we throw him at the damage? Let's give him the damage, and let's just see pure violence. How about that?
Oh man,
don't hate it.
That would be rough.
Darren Elkins for those who are the uninitiated.
The uninitiated.
That's what I was going for with Landwehr was the pure violence, but like,
yeah,
same box checked with Elkins.
Okay, let's move on. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, split decision victory over Abubakar Nurmagomedov. The scorecards read, in the welterweight division, 29-28 from two judges for dos Santos. One judge giving Nurmagomedov a 29-28. Mark, start us off for this one. Give us your take. Another split. Who'd you have?
Finally, someone exposed Abubakar. Man, I have never been impressed. I've said it on here before. I've always felt like this guy was a beatable fighter, unlike most of the other guys out of his camp. But because of his association with that camp, he always gets talked about like he's this stud. And every time I watch him, I'm like, he's not. Like, someone can absolutely beat this man. And I thought Zaleski was the right guy to do it. I've always been a fan of his as well, so it was kind of one of these where I really believe in one guy, not so much the other. So I had some money the Zaleski way, so I was pretty happy with this result. But, yeah, I mean, he's hard to hold. He's strong. He's athletic. He's a powerful striker. It was the right recipe to beat Abubakar's game, and all that came to bear. Zaleski did such a good job defending takedowns. He made Nurmagomedov pay every chance that he could. He was ripping legs. He was nasty in the clinch. Really beautiful clinch work. It was a great all-around performance from him. And I see some arguments. I mean, I know the Dagestani guys always have, like, a lot of social media support, so I guess it's not surprising. But there's kind of a lot of talk on Twitter of people arguing that Abubakar should have won that fight. Like, he did not win round two. Like, whoever is saying he won round two needs to just stop analyzing fights, because he did not. Like, Zaleski landed all round, and Abubakar leaned on him all round and had one takedown with 10 seconds left. Like, it's not enough to take the whole round that you were losing just because you got a takedown at the end. And then, of course, round three, he got worked by Zaleski. Round one, he won. I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
But it's 2-1, clear as day. So great job by Dos Santos, and a great return win for him after he had a tainted supplement suspension that cost him a bunch of time here.
Yeah. Omar, what was your take?
My take is Derek Cleary is another one of these chooch-ass bastards with this scorecard shit. It's ridiculous. Another one where I thought round one was pretty straightforward, right? Pretty obvious. Nurmagomedov came with some heat, landed some big bombs early. I was kind of concerned for Dos Santos right at the very beginning. I was like, oh shit, I'm about to eat the floor in a minute. But he worked his way through, got out of that round, and once we got to the second round, man, the thing I think that really impressed me the most was the pace. The consistent pace throughout 3 rounds from Dos Santos, his ability to, defend a takedown, land shots, switch the position, get the position up against the cage, land more shots. Even when they had moments where they briefly separated and they weren't necessarily in the clinch, but almost like a tight kind of phone booth boxing range, Dos Santos was picking this man apart. He was throwing 3-piece combinations like 2 fucking inches away from this guy. Like, it was crazy. I am glad that they gave the nod to Dos Santos, because there were moments in that fight where I was like, all they're seeing is Nurmagomedov with his hands around Dos Santos' legs. They're not going to be paying attention to the fact that the takedown's not happening and Dos Santos is beating the shit out of him while he's trying to go for this takedown. So I'm glad that the scorecards went the way that they went. I'm glad that there weren't 2 Derek Clearys on that card, or in that fight, I should say. But it was a hell of a fight from Dos Santos. That pace is terrifying, and people should definitely be recognizing that.
Hell yeah, man. Let's quickly match these guys up and then hop into our lightning round. Omar, staying with you here, give us a name of who you would match up Zaleski with next at welterweight.
Let's see. Let's see on the old board. Oh, for fuck's sake. Well, Mark, go first. Your boy messed up here. Wrong page.
It's all good.
No worries. So who am I? I'm Zaleski first, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have always seen talent in Dos Santos. I've always been a fan of his. Like I said, he's missed almost 2 years here for a tainted supplement, which sucked a lot of time out for him. He's already 36 years old. Let's give him a shot against someone legit here. I mean, the dude is, people don't realize, he's 10-3 in the UFC, and he's arguably 11-2 because most people, myself included, thought he beat Muslim Salikov. So 11-2 is a fucking hell of a record. And he's beaten Sean Strickland. Like, the guy is good. So I would like to see him get a shot. I think I'd like to put him in there across from a Santiago Ponzinibbio. Proven fighter, coming off a loss. He's a name that would mean something if Dos Santos could get past him. And I think he deserves a shot like that.
Omar?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. The loss, I think, is kind of why that makes a lot more sense. My original thought was Gunnar Nelson, but Gunnar Nelson's coming off a win. Seems messed up to make him go backwards. But it's a fight at some point, hopefully, if their stars align, I think I would love to see. So I'll go just a bit above where you're at, and I will go Daniel Rodriguez off of the loss.
Dude, that's the other person I considered. That's literally, I was between those two.
Yep.
Oh, my God. We should have an MMA podcast together. Okay.
Great.
All right. Let us now jump into our lightning round.
You gonna break out the cell phone again, Mike?
Okay, you fucks. All right, first up, we have Jim Miller in the lightweight bout. Take Jesse Butler's soul, knocking him out in 23 seconds. Mark, go first.
Dude, jeez. Jim Miller wrecked this poor man.
Yeah, man. Late replacement.
Yeah. Didn't go so well for him. The left hook was picture perfect. It generated so much power. Butler went down bad, and then Miller just added in the uppercut of death for good measure. So light work for the veteran Jim Miller and his new fastest finish of his career.
That's right. Omar?
Yeah, dude, that was it's not really much to take away from there. The man just walked forward and just laid the kid out. I hope Jesse Butler is the gentleman's name, the sacrificial lamb of Jim Miller. I hope he gets another shot, like a proper shot in the UFC, because that was his debut. That's not it, though. That's not how you do it. So I'm hoping he gets a proper shot and moving forward. But Jim Miller's a beast, man. There's something really terrifying about watching a man like that at the age that he is, with the dad bod that he has. A good-looking one, by the way. He's solid as fuck,
Dude,
but
that's not a dad bod.
I mean, at some point, your abs don't stay down the way that they're supposed to, right? Like, everything kind of starts to expand a little bit. And that's kind of where he's at. But he's as solid as a rock. The man's got a mullet that's like 3 different colors because he's aging. And he's beating the shit out of people. And it's absolutely amazing to see Jim Miller still succeeding at this point in his career. You gotta love it.
All right, flyweight division, Tim Elliott defeats Victor Altamirano by UD. Omar, go first.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about this last week, and I think it was pretty spot on. Altamirano's he's a great prospect, right? Like, he's very active, he's very fun. But Tim Elliott's just got that experience, and he's not one to be out hustled, right? Outworked for the most part, out scrambled. Tim Elliott's one of the crazy guys in that division, right? Brandon Royval's on that list as well, but you're not going to out crazy Tim Elliott for the most part unless you're up there. And Altamirano's obviously not at that point yet in his career, and I don't think anybody expected him to be. So I thought it was a tall order for him going in, and he got, he made a showing of himself, but Tim Elliott clearly won that fight.
Mark?
Yeah, I agree with all that. Tim Elliott came out here and did Tim Elliott things. He's not going to get tired. He's not going to stop moving. He's going to hit you with some crazy grappling. You're never going to be able to really corral him in any kind of way. And then next thing you know, 15 minutes has ticked by and you lost on the card. So, that's basically what it feels like to fight him for most guys. And I agree with Omar. Altamirano fought well. I was actually pretty impressed by him simply in that he was looking for the big chance every time. Sorry, he was looking for the big shot every time he had a chance on the feet. But he just got outworked, and out Tim Elliott did. So nice win for Tim.
Okay, Karine Silva, round 1 submission over Ketlin Souza. That poor girl's knee. Mark, go first.
Dude. Nasty.
Word of advice for the next girl fighting Karine Silva: keep your fucking space for as long as you can, because if this girl gets a hold of you, you are in big trouble. Her jits is filthy. She is a finisher of the highest order. She was pre-UFC. She has proven to be that through 2 fights in the UFC. And she tore Ketlin Souza's knee up with relative ease. So 2-0, 2 finishes on the rise for sure.
Omar.
I don't know what it is, man. I can watch, people get elbowed and chopped up and ground up all day, right? Like, people's faces could be mincemeat, and like, I'm good. Watching her knee just go, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's disgusting. It's so messed up and so cringy. I hope it's not as bad as it looked, because it's another one of those things where it looks like every ligament in there is probably gone.
Yeah,
so
it looked very bad.
Yeah. Guys, girls, everybody, they all got to tap sooner than that. Like, I know you don't want to like lose, but you're gonna lose your fucking leg. So
I don't know that she could have, dude. It wasn't.
You think it was that fast?
Really
It was fast.
Like, I don't even think that Silva thought she like quite had it, and then the knee just was like boom. Like, I don't know. Even like on the slow motion replay, it looked like Silva hadn't even really tried to torque it yet. It was a little bit of a weird one.
I wonder if there might have been previous damage to it. Maybe it just made things a little bit easier to pop out. Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe she's just that good that you can't. I couldn't even tell that she was already kind of torquing it in some other way. Who knows?
I mean, she had leverage on it for sure. I mean, she was torquing. She was torquing it, but but again, I don't know if maybe she just didn't have the range of motion that other women do with their ligaments. That maybe it just popped sooner than others.
Bro, her knee popped. Her knee popped immediately.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it looked like Silva was almost completing the setup still, and then the knee was just like, nope.
It's like, whoop, I'm out. And she was like, fucked. She was like, really, you could tell she was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Her leg is almost completely
Don't talk
in
about
the
it.
other direction, though, too.
Please stop.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that.
Okay, Dontel Mays, round 2 TKO. Oh no, I'm skipping somebody. I'm sorry. Daniel Santos, UD over Johnny Munoz. Mark, take it first.
Munoz was just in a tough spot in this fight. He was game, and he tried to push his advantages when he could, but Santos is not an easy guy to hold down. He's a really good grappler in his own right, and unless Munoz could get on top, which he barely was able to do, Santos had every advantage in this fight. So he landed his good share of shots, and he took a clear UD. Omar.
Yeah, I think Wily Cat is definitely the right name for Santos, because that man was wild in that fight, man. I thought his striking was actually really good as well. I thought he had a lot of good forward pressure. Munoz was going for the shots and things like that, but I thought Santos made a really good accounting of himself in that fight. It's a good performance, and hopefully we see another one from him again.
Okay, Dontel Mays, round 2 TKO over Andre Arlovsky. Omar, staying with you. Take it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love Andre. I'll always love Andre. He's an OG. The fact that he's still here is kind of insane in the first place. But, if you can land on Arlovsky, chances are you'll probably win that fight. Arlovsky doesn't generally deal with damage like the way that he used to back in the day, and Dontel Mays, I mean, he looked decent in this fight. You know what I mean? He looked decent. He looked loose. Striking was on point, all things considered, and it's a good performance from him. And it sucks for Arlovsky, man.
Mark.
Yeah, this thing started off with Arlovsky doing what he's been doing to most guys these days. He was faster. He had the cleaner technique. He was landing. He was making Mays miss. But Mays landed a couple at the end of the first, and he got Arlovsky's respect. And it seemed like it kind of built his confidence a bit at the end of that first round, because he was kind of winging. He looked a little unfocused. And then when he landed those few, it looked like he came out in round 2 much more sure of himself and way more comfortable with the shots he was throwing. And then ultimately slipped the jab and nuke of an overhand right and gets it done. So a huge win for Dontel Mays' career. I mean, he was arguably on the chopping block, and now he just beat Arlovsky, which is the best opponent he's beaten thus far.
Omar.
All right, win already.
Oh, my bad. John Castaneda, UD over Muin Gafurov. My bad. Gafurov.
Yep.
Marco.
Castaneda is a solid fighter, man. You have to be pretty good to beat that guy, and he always seems to get underrated, but he did well here, and he dealt with a hell of a pace. Gafurov was pushing a really high pace. He was bringing it. He certainly landed some big shots on Castaneda, but Castaneda did well. He rolled with a lot of shots. He ate them. He mixed it up really well from takedowns to strikes. He mixed up the strikes, threw in some head kicks. I mean, he racked up some solid damage as that fight went on and turned to the control when he needed to. But another solid performance for Castaneda.
Omar.
Yeah, it was a wild little fight, man. They got a little contentious, obviously, in the second round as well when the headbutts started to get involved and Tyranny ended up having to take a point away. But it was a hell of a fight, man. And just like Mark said, Castaneda's good. And, you know, with a prospect like that, it's going to be interesting to see if he does lose and how he loses and who he loses to because it's looking good.
Okay. Let's see. Muhammadjan Naimov, round 2 TKO over Jamie Malarkey. Omar, staying with you. Go.
Dog, what was the line for this fight again? Because, Jesus Christ. Especially the way he won. So by knockout, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't have it written last week because we didn't do the preview.
Oh, man.
But Malarkey was definitely the favorite.
Had to be a big favorite, I would imagine, too, because he was also a short notice replacement. Yeah. I think that had just been replaced 3 days prior to that. And Malarkey was looking good in the very beginning. He looked kind of like Malarkey, like the guy who's supposed to be in there. And, man, Naimov just found an opportunity and put Malarkey's lights out. And the kid looks heavy-handed as fuck because when Malarkey went down on the ground, he did not look like he was getting back up. So, good performance from Naimov, man.
Yeah, it was like 4-1 odds.
It's wild, man. Yeah, that's how you make an entrance there. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, was that one of the guys that they had from Tajikistan, right, bro? They had an entire stadium rented out to watch two fighters that were on the undercard, which was
the other one was Gafarov, who lost to Castaneda that we were just talking about.
The headbutt.
So they went 1-1 on the night.
Wild though, man.
Yeah, Malarkey was fighting well to start. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a Jamie Malarkey fight. He was aggressive first round, the jab, the kicks. He looked like he was dialed in. Naimov always, you could tell he was slick. He certainly had a few slick shots here and there where he was landing on the counters, but he never looked like he was all that comfortable, it seemed. Like he kind of just couldn't stop getting backed up. And then it turned out all he needed was one of these slick little shots that he kept mixing in to land flush, and that was that. So step back, counter right hook, landed clean as can be, and Malarkey was done. So massive debut for Naimov.
Okay. Elise Reed, unanimous decision victory over Jin Yoon Frey. Mark, go.
This one played out like an old school matchup. It was that Frey needed to be, or Fry, I believe, needed to be on top and controlling. And if she was not, then it was all Reed. She had the advantage anytime there was space, had the advantage in the striking. So it was really just a matter of could Fry keep getting a hold of her. And Reed did enough. You know, Fry had a good round one. Round two, she had her moments of control, but I didn't feel like it was enough. I do feel like Elise Reed won that round, created enough separation. She was even landing strikes from bottom, got back to the feet at the end, poured it on, and then Reed absolutely won round three. So commentary seemed unsure. I thought Reed definitely won that fight. Good job by her.
Omar.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I thought I had Frey winning round one. But I had Reed winning round two and round three. And even round one was a bit of a scrap. I mean, even by the end of that fight, Frey's face was busted. She had a big hematoma.
Yeah, the hematoma, that was fucking a ghost hematoma. I don't even know where that came from.
Yeah. It was a wild fight, man. There were up kicks that were involved. That first round was a scrap for sure. But I think the next two rounds at least kind of dialed in, and I thought she won the last two.
Okay. Damon Blackshear, round two, TKO over Luan Lacerda. Omar, go again.
I mean, this is a prime example. If you guys are teaching, if anybody's teaching MMA anywhere, this is a prime example of what not to do in MMA when you think you're really good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because hanging on to a leg that you're not going to get for dear life while the guy above you is destroying your face with downward punches, you can't just stay there and eat them. It was I feel like in 2023 we should all know this, including the people that actually put themselves in harm's way. So it was a little concerning that this man just didn't move, and then eventually got TKO'd. So weird choice by Luan Lacerda, and good on Damon Blackshear for taking advantage of an opportunity that doesn't come around very often.
Yeah, man. Mark?
Yeah, Lacerda was competitive in the grappling, but, God, his strikes looked like they were coming from a man who had fought 25 minutes of war already. I don't know what was going on with him, but they were the slowest, most labored strikes I've ever seen. And Damon Blackshear is good. Like, I know he hadn't grabbed a UFC win yet through 2 fights, but you're going to need to present more danger than those slow, long punches to beat Damon Blackshear. And he's comfortable in the grappling, which he showed. Even in the leg lock attempts, he was totally comfortable, stayed super calm, waited for an opening, and he certainly found one. So, yeah, Omar made the point already. I won't remake it, but you can't sit there in that spot. I mean, maybe the first punch just landed so hard that he already was, like, out of it. But, man, he certainly sat there for quite a while. But well done by Blackshear. I'm happy to see him get a UFC win because I do think he's talented.
Omar, did you go?
I did.
Okay, last one. Felipe Lins, UD over Max Grishin. Omar, go.
This was a good fight, man. This is a pretty good competitive fight, especially once we got into the 3rd round. I thought the first 2 rounds I gave to Lins. But that 3rd round, I think Grishin knew that he was potentially screwed if he didn't do something major in that round, and came out hot, man. And I gave the last round to Grisham. I don't think I was the only one. I'm actually curious to see what they have on there. I'll look while Mark goes, but it was a very, very competitive fight. But I thought the right person won.
Mark, take it home.
Yeah, scored it the same way Omar did. This one started off pretty entertaining, actually, and then it kind of turned into a little bit of a clinch fest as it went on. But Grishin just couldn't stop the clinch. That's really what it boiled down to. He absolutely had a chance to win this fight. It was close kind of the whole way through. But I just felt like he was too content with letting himself be controlled for long stretches of the fight. And he let Lins take 2 of those rounds. So, yeah, Lins got it done.
That does it. Sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to say, only 38 scorecards, but round 3 is literally 50-50, split even down the middle. So.
But the first 2 are for Lins?
The first 2 are for Lins, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Even round 2, they have it a little bit closer with 55.3% and 44.7%.
Oh, wow.
But it's still, yeah, I'm not really sure why that is like that, but they are both for Lins in the end.
Yeah.
Okay, that does it for our lightning round. And for our recap of UFC Fight Night, Kara France versus Albazi. And now let's put a bow on this fight night by finding out who rose and fell in Mark's very own rankings system that we call the Priaulx Rankings. Mark?
All right, we got 3 risers and 2 fallers this week. Where would you guys like me to start? I'll bring you into it this week.
Let's go with some fallers. We'll end on the high note.
All right, we got a couple fallers. The first one is Luan Lacerda.
Wow.
He falls from number 60 to 66 in bantamweight, so it's not like he's falling from any high peak. But the reason I mention him is because he debuted against Cody Stamann. A lot of people thought he won that fight, and obviously I had to rank him low because he was 0-1. But now he moves to 0-2, so that's how quickly that can happen in MMA. And he really let that fight get away from him with Damon Blackshear. So a guy who showed a lot of promise now is 0-2 and falls to my number 66 ranked bantamweight. And the other one is Andrei Arlovsky. He goes from my number 18 to number 21 heavyweight. So a small move down, but also notable because he, as we know, had kind of reinvented himself a bit in this second veteran run here that he's been having, where he doesn't really knock guys out anymore. He fights this clean technique type of fight. He kind of avoids the big shots. And it feels like this secondary run of Arlovsky is kind of now coming to an end as well. Like Rogerio de Lima caught him with a big one. Now Mays caught him with a big one. So it almost feels like this kind of reinvention of Arlovsky has started to be figured out as well. So he moves down here off of the loss. Flipping to the risers, perfect segue, Dontel Mays. Dontel Mays was my number 30 ranked heavyweight, and there's not that many heavyweights for reference. There are 37 of them. My number 30 ranked heavyweight, and he was arguably on the chopping block with a loss here, and now he is my number 20 ranked heavyweight. So a massive win for him. Huge jump up to beat a name like Arlovsky, who has plenty of names on his resume. So Mays with a big move for him. Next one, Muhammadjan Naimov, the dude from Tajikistan that we were just talking about. Great debut win. Knocks out Jamie Malarkey. Goes from obviously being a non-ranked fighter to being my number 39 ranked lightweight off of the debut KO of Jamie Malarkey. So we'll see if he can back that up in his future fights. And then the last one, a bit begrudgingly, but similar to the UFC, I do not have a choice. So it is Amir Albazi, moving from my number 10 ranked flyweight up to my number 4. And that is it for the week.
Thank you, sir, for the update. And now, let us dive headfirst into the MMA Sphere with Omar Artola. Omar, let us know what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cages.
Remember last week when we said whole hell of a lot, or whenever the hell that was? This week, not so goddamn much. So, we'll jump right into it. We do got a few fight announcements, so that might take us through. But we only really got a handful of stories here. So the first one is just a big congratulations to Raquel Pennington and Tecia Torres. They are now both mothers, and they just gave birth to their daughter, Alea, I believe is how it's pronounced. So
Congrats.
Good for them. I was actually talking with Francesca about when we would expect Tecia Torres to be back, because it seems like a lot of the moms tend to come back like a year later or so. I feel like we haven't really seen anybody take an extended period of time right after birth, or at least nobody big that I can think of anyway. So maybe we'll see Tecia back in 2024. It'd be interesting.
That would be cool.
Next on the list, Paddy Pimblett making the news. Officially married his longtime girlfriend, Laura Gregory, on May 28th. Saw the Instagram post of him with his wife at the wedding. And first thing I thought of was, ankle looks fucking fine to me. So, better get his ass back in the gym. Let's go. Last on my list, a little update on Greg Hardy. Lost again. Knocked out again. Things aren't going well for Greg Hardy.
Yikes.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. No, he's losing. He hasn't won in forever now. So, there it is. Shit happens. All right. Now let's get into some fight announcements, and we will move right along. So a couple of updates about this weekend's card here. Matt Schnell is out of this card. So David Dvorak will not be facing Stefan Ursek, I believe is how it's pronounced. Ursek?
Couldn't tell you what it looks like.
Yes, is now be facing Stefan Ursek at UFC 289 on June 10th. Chris Dawkins is also off of this card as well with his fight against Khalil Roundtree Jr. That fight is being rescheduled rescheduled on August 12th. Okay. Next on the list, we have Alexander Romanov versus Blagoy Ivanov. That has been added to UFC's July 1st event.
That's a good booking. I didn't see that. It's good.
Macy Chasson versus Yana Santos, the former Yana Kunitskaya, has been added to the UFC Fight Night on July 1st as well. Matthew Semmelsberger will be back in the mix against Johan Linace. That has been added to UFC's 291 card on July 29th. Stylistically, that is a hell of a fight right there.
Agree stylistically. I feel like that's quite a step down for Semmelsberger, but...
I agree. Right. I agree. Big spot for Linace, though.
Yeah.
Roman Kopylov versus Claudio Ribeiro has also been added to the July 29th pay-per-view. Billy Q back in the mix. Billy Quarantillo versus Damon Jackson has been added to UFC Nashville on August 5th. I hate that fight because I love both of them. That fight is going to suck to have to pick.
Yeah, it's a good fight.
Ovince St. Preux back in the mix against Ion Kunte-Laba. This fight will also be going down August 5th in Nashville at light heavyweight.
Ignacio that never happened? Good. God, that sure sounds like it should have happened.
Right? Ignacio Bahamondes versus Ludovic Klein has also been added to the UFC Nashville card.
No, never happened. Wow.
And OSP, I feel like, has fought everybody already.
Yeah.
Marcus McGee, for those of you who may not recognize the name, he is the gentleman who recently won a pretty a fight that he basically, I don't think he was supposed to win, but we've also talked about how the man is young inside, but looks not so much outside. That is Mr. McGee. He is fighting Gaston Bolaños. That is added to August 12th. And we also have on that same card, Poliana Viana versus my girl, Yasmin Lucindo. That is a murder for Viana, or for Lucindo, I should say, waiting to happen. Can't wait for that one. Our boy, Chris Weidman, back in your life. He is returning against Brad Tavares on UFC 292 on August 19th. That is a great returning fight for Chris Weidman. I think that's from a difficulty perspective, I think that's just spot on. Tavares is obviously not, he's not super, super elite, but he's definitely not somebody that can be beaten easily. And if Chris doesn't come with his A game, he is definitely liable to get knocked the fuck out. So that is an exciting fight. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Chris Weidman's like, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the hardest leg kick that I've ever thrown in my life. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Glad he told everybody. So hopefully that doesn't get checked.
It makes you feel good, though, to see the UFC can manage fights because, sometimes they do, but it would also be so UFC to be like, Chris Weidman's back. He's getting in there with Paulo Costa. And you're just like, why? Like, couldn't we have done something that makes more sense?
Or
it's nice to see, Brad Tavares, literally the perfect return opponent to see where Chris Weidman is at.
Yeah. And I'm glad they didn't give him some random dude, too, because I feel they also do that as well.
Agree. Or that. Good point.
Next on my list, we have GM3 back in the mix. Gerald Mearshart versus Andre Petrosky. That has been added to UFC 292, August 19th.
I'm enjoying the Sphere.
I'm just not going to text you guys now for the rest of the week. This is the most interaction I've gotten from Mark in my Sphere. Next on my list, I have Sharabutsdin Magomedov versus Derek Brunson. I don't know who this Magomedov is, but he is of the Magomedovs, so I can only imagine.
He is of the Magomedovs. Is it not a person that I know? I need to Google who this is right now.
I've never
listed on SureDog.
I've never seen this collection of alphabet letters before, so I don't think I've seen this gentleman before.
Why is this not even coming up when I fucking Google it? Who is Derek Brunson fighting? Is it a real person?
It is last name Magomedov.
Did I spell it wrong? Derek? Oh, I spelled Brunson wrong. Let's try this again.
Well, that'll happen.
Derek Brunson. Nothing comes up. I'm typing Derek Brunson Nurmagomedov, and literally nothing comes up.
No, not Nurmagomedov. Magomedov.
Oh, Magomedov. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I'm typing Nur, because you literally did say Magomedov. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Sharabutsdin. Does he go by a different name? Because, this dude is just debuting against Derek Brunson? That's what we're doing?
And we're doing it in Abu Dhabi, baby.
Oh, fuck, it's this dude.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, tell me who this is, because I don't know who this is.
Okay.
Or maybe I do.
It's not entirely coming back to me right now, but he has a very unique face. And it's an easily memorable face, and I remember it now. I forget what they call him. Is it they call him fuck, he's got a name about the way he looks. I'm blanking on what it is. But he's a beast, and they've tried to book him a couple times, and for whatever reason, his fights didn't happen. So yeah, he's undefeated. There's hype behind this guy, so I'm actually not that surprised that they're going straight for a Derek Brunson.
I don't know if I've ever seen or noticed a ginger Russian before.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. He has some type of name, I don't remember if it's the Irish something as a joke. It's some shit like that where they call him something being funny.
Huh.
I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, he's got some hype.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the context, because I thought they were just throwing some random fucking guy and they were Derek Brunson. All right, so that will be going down in Abu Dhabi, so that does make more sense, especially considering where Magomedov will be coming in from. So that's last on my list, but absolutely not the least. Curtis Blades versus Jailton Almeida is in the works to headline UFC Sao Paulo on November 4th. That is, can you be happier? I don't think you can. That's the fight right there. The only thing that would make it better is if this was happening sooner rather than goddamn November 4th. But here we are, and it is what it is, and we'll have to deal with it. But hopefully nothing happens between now and then, and we get that fight. Yeah, very exciting things. And that, gentlemen, that's all we got this week.
Okay. Let's now turn toward...
Yeah. I actually think they might just call him Ginger Khabib. I feel like that's maybe what I've heard. That's what I'm thinking of. But he's got like a lazy eye, too. He's like a very... unique, and he's from Dagestan. It's like he's a unique human, and he knocks people out. He's not just like a grindy wrestler.
I think I know who you're talking about.
But anyway. Every picture I've seen of him, he doesn't look like a happy person.
No.
Jesus, Mike. Quick sidebar: Jokic had 30, 20, and 10.
Fuck.
I don't know about exactly, but hit those levels. What a fucking animal.
For those of you listening,
so good at basketball.
Yes,
he's so good.
This is American sports, ladies and gentlemen.
34 points, 10 boards, 10 assists.
Oof.
Savage. Wait. Oh no, that's Jamal Murray's line. What did they both have a triple double? Jesus, Jamal Murray had 34 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists.
Dude,
Jokic had 32 points, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they smoked Miami tonight. Anyway, let's come back to the pay-per-view.
Miami's in trouble.
Sports,
Denver's
baby.
So good. Man, I want Jimmy to win.
I know, me too. It's not going to happen.
Let's talk about the best sport in the world again.
Yes.
Mixed martial arts. Let's turn to the future, and let's talk about PFL and UFC action, both happening this weekend. Let's start with PFL 4. Let's go with just some thoughts on the card. We're not going to go down this entire fight card for you guys. I'm also going to run upstairs and grab a different charging cable because I think Omar is right, because now all my shit is dying. So,
oh boy.
I'm going to leave you guys to it. Give me, I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just give some quick thoughts on this. We're not doing true previews of this card because it happens to be one of these PFL cards where, on paper at least, it's kind of a lot of mismatches. Like every single fight of relevance on this card is 4-1 odds or more. Really, the only one that's not is the Marlon Moraes fight. He's like a 2-1 underdog. So, I mean, granted, half the time you see this with the PFL, the dogs win these friggin' fights. But there's a few fights of relevance. You have, as I said, Marlon Moraes on the card. He's fighting Gabriel Braga, who has looked pretty good. I mean, you'd like to think Moraes could right the ship. But I'm pretty sure that we're doing featherweight again here.
Correct.
Yeah, we are, right? Yeah, so I still don't quite love it for Marlon. You have Bubba Jenkins on the card, who obviously looked great. We'll see if he can get another win over Sung Bin Jo. Chris Wade is fighting Ryoji Kudo. That's maybe another of the arguably close fights on the card. We'll see if Wade can bounce back after taking the early L to Jenkins at the start of this year's regular season. And then really the two names to watch, just because we're kind of all hoping they'll end up fighting each other down the road, is Movlid Habulaev is fighting Tyler Diamond of Tough fame, if you remember him from Tough. Movlid is minus 800, I believe it was, last I looked. And then the main event, of course, is Brendan Loughnane fighting Jesus Pineda. Loughnane himself is minus 550, so he's a huge favorite as well. But the hope in watching this card is that Loughnane wins, Movlid wins, and we keep moving toward what is an eventual finale, or at least a semi, whatever it ends up being, because obviously Bubba Jenkins is in that mix too. But the fight I want to see, and I think most people want to see, is a rematch of Loughnane and Movlid this year.
Very nice. Yeah, I was also noticing Andrew Sanchez is on this card as well.
That's right.
What's this guy's name? Impa Kasangane is also on this card as well.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of UFC vets.
Yeah, there's some names on there, but I feel like we've talked about these positions before, where again, like you said, on paper, not necessarily the strongest card, and a lot of times these cards kind of have that one name value where you might know one person pretty well and the other person maybe not so much, and so it loses a little bit of that value to really break things down when they don't all necessarily have the same value to them.
There was supposed to be a little bit more star power on this card, but when half of your roster gets suspended, that becomes a bit more difficult. So
it makes you wonder who's gonna fucking pop over here, man.
That's for real. That's hopefully not Lockname, man. I love Lockname.
I
didn't want to think about that. I'm sure he's clean.
I was in the camp of I hope Marlon doesn't pop because desperation makes people do dumb fucking things. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So when is that? Is that a Friday card? It's got to be, right? I'm thinking. Wait, is it tomorrow? Oh shit, it's Thursday.
Thursday yeah.
All right, I'll pop that on a Thursday night. Why not? Yeah, main card 10 p.m. on ESPN. On real ESPN too, so you can watch it if you don't have the Plus.
I will be doing the Transformers movie tomorrow, so that's not happening.
Very nice, very nice.
Dude, did you watch Super Mario with your kids yet?
No, dude, I still didn't.
It's on goddamn TV now. Like you don't even need to go to the movie theater. It's
last
amazing.
I checked, it was still like $30 to rent. So I was like, all right, we're gonna wait.
Well, like I said, you just hit up your boy. Go hook you up.
True, you did say that.
I did.
All right. Well, moving on. Is Mike back? Does Mike want to handle this? Can you hear us, Mike?
Do your job, Mike.
He's just staring at us with no headphones in, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is. He's returned. We've completed PFL. Would you like to intro us into the UFC?
Mike back from his 15 here.
I always took long 15s. What would we call that? I always took pregnant 15s. They would turn into 25s. Anyway, I think you were right, dude. I think it was the cable.
That's why they pay me the big bucks, Mike.
Oh, my shit is dead. Oh, Christ on a cracker.
Huh. That's a good one.
All right, boys.
Isn't that like aren't you doubling up there, right? Because isn't Christ a cracker at church?
Okay.
Isn't that a thing?
Okay, smart guy.
I'm just saying, is that just 2 crackers? If Christ is out a cracker?
I am Omar, master of logic.
Boy.
What is this a podcast about?
Crackers.
All right, here we go. Big one this weekend,
everyone.
Saturday night, UFC 289, Nunes versus Aldana, going down at the Rogers Arena in Vancouver, British Columbia, Wildfire, Canada.
Yeah, well, Wildfire's from the east, Vancouver in the west, so at least we're safe in that regard.
It's true.
Mike's like, Canada's Canada. It's all their fault.
It's just one big province above, somewhere above Toronto.
Nice little town of Canada.
Yeah, it's a county. Let's see. Before we talk about the handful of major fights going down on this card, it's a great card, by the way.
It's good names.
Any other fights or fighters that you guys want to spotlight for our viewers and listeners?
Omar, you can start it off.
I guess, I'll go first real quick. I guess one of my main ones really is the Miranda Maverick fight. She's fighting Jasmine Jasudavicius. I think it's Maverick's time to shine, man. I really love most of her performances, and I really think she's got a ton of skill. I think she's a really good prospect, so I just hope she can capitalize on here. She's dropped the ball a couple times in her UFC career so far, but I think she can. I think this is a totally winnable fight for her, so I hope she can capitalize here.
Hell yeah, man!
And honestly, man, that's really the big one for me. There is Aman Zahabi as well, but I'll let Mark take the rest of them. He might have a little bit more in depth for some of the other ones.
Yeah, I'll mention a couple. I'm looking forward to that Maverick fight as well. I hope she can perform up to what she's capable of there, because I do think she should win that fight. I'm interested to see Blake Bilder in his second fight. He had a very strong debut win. He's fighting Kyle Nelson, who I think is like 1-4 in the UFC. So you'd like to think Bilder can look good again. We'll see if he can. And then despite David Dvorak getting kind of bumped down this card and getting a late replacement opponent in Steve Erceg, if that's how you say it, he's actually got a really solid resume. He's fought a lot of dudes. Apparently he has filthy jiu-jitsu, so I'm curious to see if he can pull off a surprise and knock off David Dvorak in that fight. So I'll be interested to see that one.
All right. Well, here we go. First fight that we are going to discuss is the featured bout on the prelims on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Nassourdine Imavov versus Chris Curtis. So Imavov, the 28-year-old out of Paris, France, he is 12-4 as a pro, 5 knockouts, 4 submissions on his record. Never been knocked out, has been submitted just once. He is coming off of, I would say, a disappointing loss against Sean Strickland back in January of this year. He will be standing across from Chris Curtis, the 35-year-old out of Cincinnati, Ohio. He's 30-10 as a pro with 17 knockouts on his record. He's also coming off of a loss, a unanimous decision loss against none other than Kelvin Gastelum back in April. Quicker turnaround for Mr. Curtis. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick for Curtis versus Imavov.
Okay. Imavov is the favorite here. He's minus 155. Chris Curtis is plus 125 as the underdog. So fairly close. The reach is actually half an inch on Curtis's side, but it is a 5-inch height advantage for Imavov, which I think is a big deal. Imavov is great with his distance striking. I know he doesn't have the reach here, but he does have the leg reach, and that's going to be a factor with the kicks. He already has a great ability to maintain range. He can snipe from the outside all day, whereas Curtis, we know, likes to be more in that boxing range to land his bigger shots, which I think could prove to be tricky for him here. So I think I see Imavov being able to win the striking. It wouldn't shock me either if this ends up on the mat a time or two, if Imavov decides he needs to mix it up, if it isn't going his way on the feet. I know Curtis trains with Strickland, who obviously just beat Imavov and had a great game plan where he sort of made Imavov look bad. So I'm sure he's in Curtis's ear. I'm sure Curtis will try to at least somewhat replicate that in his own way with his own skills. And there's always the chance of Chris Curtis cracking dudes, for sure. I don't want to underrate Chris Curtis at all. But Imavov's chin has looked really solid thus far. And I really think he can just lean on the range here and do enough to win these cards. And it took me, what is it, 6 fights in for Chris Curtis in the UFC or something? It took me 6 fights to finally pick a Chris Curtis fight correctly when I took Kelvin to beat him in the last one. So we have reversed the fortunes, and we're on a run now. So trust me, it's going to be Imavov, UD.
Okay, Omar.
It's not a bad pick. But I will be going Chris Curtis for this one. I like Imavov in this fight. I think this is actually a really competitive fight, but I do think that there is something to be said about Strickland having worked Imavov in his previous fight, or at least a good portion of that fight. It's difficult for me to not think that with styles as similar as Chris Curtis and Sean Strickland have, that there aren't going to be significant takeaways from that. And it's not to say that the game plan is going to be exactly the same. You'd have to imagine Imavov had to make some sort of adjustments after that fight as well. But Chris Curtis is a good fighter, man. I think he's gotten. I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves because of his recent losses, but like, he's a solid fighter. He's a very, very good and very smart fighter. So as long as he's on point on that day and we're not just sitting back and just waiting for Imavov to go first, I think Chris Curtis has a hell of a chance to get this fight in a W. So I'm going to go with Chris Curtis by unanimous decision.
Man, this is a fight where I don't want to see either one of these guys take a loss. I really like both these guys as up-and-coming middleweights. I kind of hate that they're fighting each other right now. This is a somewhat close fight to me. I have a hard time picking this one, but I'm going to go with the attributes of Nassourdine Imavov. I think he's going to be the much taller man. He's going to tower over Chris Curtis. And I'm looking for him to bounce back. I was pretty disappointed and let down by his Sean Strickland loss, although he kind of let Sean Strickland do what Sean Strickland does to so many guys. So I'm going to look for Imavov to get back in the win column and bring some more of that striking prowess and fireworks back into the cage this time. Give me Imavov by UD. I'll take it this time. Okay, next up we have the opening bout of the main card, UFC 289, in the middleweight division. Marc-Andre Barriault versus Eryk Anders. Now let me just cue this up real quick. Pause for technical difficulties. Okay, we have Marc-Andre Barriault, power bar, the 33-year-old out of Quebec. I'm on fire, Canada. That one was more correct, yes.
Yeah, that is correct, yes.
15-6 overall, 10 knockouts, add 1 submission to that, 1 no contest. Coming off of a win over Julian Marquez back in March. He will be standing across from Eryk "Ya Boy" Anders, the 36-year-old out of Birmingham, Alabama. 15-7, 1 no contest, 9 wins by knockout. Also, coming off of a very nice TKO victory over Kyle Dawkins back in December. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take and your pick. Barriault versus "Ya Boy" Eryk Anders.
It's a very interesting fight, and I think it's a very competitive fight, but the one thing that's going to make me go Eryk Anders' route is the recent performance that he had against Kyle Dawkins. More than just the actual opponent in Kyle Dawkins, which people will argue left and right whether that's a name of value or not. It had less to do with that for me personally and his actual approach and his actual performance in that fight. That was the most open I've ever seen Eryk Anders as far as letting his hands go, being aggressive, going forward, not waiting, not trying to counter guys that are obviously faster than him. I think he just had the right approach in that fight, and I'm hoping that momentum continues, that thought process, that mindset of going first and being aggressive and letting his hands go, because the man's got power. He's just got to let it go. So if he does that in this fight, I think he smokes Andre Barriault. I'm going to go with Eryk Anders by second round KO.
Okay, Mark.
So the Canadien is the favorite. He is minus 140. Eryk Anders is plus 115. I do think this fight is basically a toss-up, as the odds suggest. It's one of these that I really feel like depends on what form each man shows up in, because I feel like we have seen some varied forms from each of these guys. But my take is the same as Omar's. To try to gauge that, I'm going to look at the most recent forms, and I was really impressed by Eryk Anders' last fight. Now, of course, Barriault's coming off a finish too, and he looked really good. But he didn't look much different than his usual self, who sometimes gets beat, sometimes gets the win. Whereas with Anders, who's a guy I've always been critical of, I thought we saw some real evolution in his game finally. I loved seeing his aggressiveness. He really seemed to finally have a trust in his own weapons and in his defense. He just looked infinitely more comfortable, willing to be in a fight and not just kind of try to not fuck up in there. So, and he's a guy who took MMA on a little bit late, so maybe that comfort is finally coming now. So if we get that same Eryk Anders, I think he can beat Barriault. Barriault always makes the cardio a factor, so that could come into play, but I'd like to think Anders will be okay there, so I will say Anders UD.
So this is a fight that I have never been super high on either one of these guys, but I completely agree that Eryk Anders' recent fight and victory over Kyle Dawkins, I was like, okay, this is what this guy seems like he should have been capable of this whole time.
Yeah.
He looks like he should have plenty of power for 185 pounds, and boy, did he show it in that last fight with Kyle Dawkins. So I'm going to ride with Eryk Anders again here. Give me another second round knockout / TKO over Marc-Andre Barriault.
Nice. All on the dog.
Yeah. Okay, next fight up in the featherweight division. One of the most anticipated fights on this card. we have Dan 50K Ige taking on Nate the Train Landwehr. So, Dan Ige, a favorite among MMA purists, I would say. The 31-year-old out of Honolulu, Hawaii. He is 16-6 as a pro, with 5 knockouts. Add 5 submissions to that in the win column for him. And he's coming off of a knockout victory over Damon Jackson back in January of this year. He will be standing across from the very exciting Nate Landwehr, the 35-year-old out of Clarksville, Tennessee, 17-4 as a pro, 8 knockouts on his record, riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this Saturday night. Most recently, a submission RNC victory over Austin Lingo back in March. Omar, give us your take and your pick this time of Landwehr versus Ige.
This is a very, very interesting fight, man. Dan Ige's a mover, right? Dan Ige likes to move around. He likes to use his footwork a lot, keep his distance, move in and move out when he needs to, and obviously try to take as little damage as humanly possible. Doesn't necessarily always go that direction for Dan Ige. Sometimes he comes out of there looking worse than wear, but it's the plan. Then you have Nate Landwehr, who is basically living up to his moniker in the train and just wants to come forward to destroy you. Whatever happens at that point is basically going to happen, but Nate Landwehr is trying to run over you at almost every turn. The problem is, if you can move out of the way and cut angles on Nate Landwehr, how much of that forward movement and that aggression really matter, right? If Ige can make it a game where he can cut the angles, counter off of those cut angles, and keep his distance and put combos together from the outside and work his way kind of around that 180-degree shell, I think Dan Ige can style on him, honestly, for a good majority of this fight, probably later on in the rounds, more so than the very beginning. But it just seems from a stylistic standpoint, again, at least on paper, that Dan Ige might just have a slight advantage when it comes to the stand-up. So I'm going to go with Dan Ige here, and I'm going to do it by unanimous decision.
Whew. I forgot that I should not always go last, so I will go next. To keep the picking fair. Man, what a tough fight to pick. Oh, my God. I imagine, before hearing the odds from Mark, I would imagine, I'm going to guess. I feel like I'm always wrong about this, but I would guess that this is very close odds.
Not so much.
What's that?
Not so much.
Oh,
I'm gonna give him right now. I'll give him right now.
Okay,
hang on. Let's see. Maybe we got Dan Ige like minus 250.
That's literally exactly right.
Wow.
Nate Landwehr plus 180.
200.
It's close.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 out of 2. Not bad.
I love 2 things about Nate Landwehr. I love his technique, and I love his pressure. He is a joy to watch as an MMA fan. It is a ballet of violence from Nate Landwehr. The same can be said to a certain extent for Dan Ige. I think Dan Ige overall is going to possess more power. And if Nate Landwehr beats Dan Ige, that would be a monumental victory at this point, at this stage in his career.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Dan Ige is going to best Nate Landwehr, and I see him getting a knockout finish over Nate the Train. I'll say end of the first round, which tends to be when Nate gets knocked out, if he does.
Omar, what was your finish?
No, he was UD.
I was UD. Yeah, Ige.
Yeah, we're all on the Ige side. Landwehr is 2 inches taller. Ige, though, will actually have a half-inch reach advantage for whatever that's worth. And, yeah, you guys have kind of said it. Landwehr is a tank. He will walk through damage. He won't stop coming unless you turn him off. He's going to do everything he can to make it into a scrap. But I actually think Dan Ige can kind of thrive in this fight. I think he's always done pretty well in scraps. I think that not only does he hit harder, but he is going to be the fighter with the better technique in there. I think he's the slicker striker. I think he can slip some shots and counter with some big ones at times. And I think he can find the chin because Nate, his style is what it is, but he makes the chin available. So I'm going to say Ige can find it. May not only be a one-hitter quitter. He may have to find it a couple times for the shots to accumulate, but I'm going to say Dan Ige knocks Nate out in round 2.
Wow.
I feel like Landwehr, his really, really nice technique comes out when he has worn you down a bit. And
Sure.
when his pressure wears you down. I'm thinking about that Austin Lingo fight. Lingo's a super tough guy, but the pressure of Landwehr eventually got to Lingo, and that's when you saw Landwehr just like absolutely styling on him. Similar things can be said about when David Onama, I think his gas kind of ran low against Landwehr, and that's when Landwehr really turned it up and just looked tremendous.
Yeah. Completely agree. When dudes start to slow and then Nate becomes the faster fighter, then his technique shines. But before that happens, it's not quite the same.
I see a lot of whiffing in this fight. Nate Landwehr, I think, is going to be throwing a lot of shit, and I just don't think he's going to be landing a ton.
So I'll write down we're all on Ige, okay.
Oh, you're writing it down? Very good. I always forget to write that shit down. Every week I'm like, I got to write it down.
I always just write the names. I never write what finish we pick. I should. But I write the names because I keep track of our records.
The position of this next fight on the card is...
It's because Canada, baby.
Is that Canada. What it is?
Yep.
Oh,
Trying to build the next Canadian star. Same reason Barriault's on the main card and Imavov and Curtis are not.
It's rude.
Let me just point out that this is going very well so far tonight. That the show, I don't know how we got to this point already, but we have. And I'm not mad about it. Okay, in the welterweight division, Mike Malott taking on Adam Fugitt. Fuck it.
Fugitt.
I know. If I was him, I would say it like that. Hey, man, what's your name? Fuck it. Adam Fugitt, Mike Malott, very exciting welterweight bout. Let me cue this up real quick.
This is the first time ever we've had 2 double T's fighting each other.
This is true.
Oh, shit.
Names that end in double T.
Okay, proper Mike Malott, the 31-year-old out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. He is 9-1 as a pro with 1 draw. All of his wins have come by way of finish. 4 knockouts, 5 subs. He is riding a 5-fight win streak following a loss and a draw that came in 2015. Most recently, he defeated Johan Nunes by submission back in February. His opponent this time, Adam Fugitt, the 34-year-old out of Eugene, Oregon, 9-3 as a pro, 5 knockouts, 3 subs. Also coming off of a win. Omar, why don't you start us off? Give us your take and your pick of Fugitt versus Malott.
I mean, I got to say I like Malott quite a bit. I think it's interesting that coming off of a win against Johan Nunes, he gets Adam Fugitt, who doesn't really seem to have. Maybe I'm putting more emphasis on the name value of Nunes at this point, but even off of Mickey Gall, who Mickey Gall is who Mickey Gall is, but there is still some name value that's there as well. So it just seems interesting that we're going in this direction now. Maybe they are just kind of feeding Fugitt to the Sharks in a sense, right? Giving somebody that Malott can beat potentially. But the records are relatively, tight as far as, having 9 wins. Fugitt obviously has a couple more losses than Malott does, but I just think this one is kind of tailor-made for Malott at this point right now. I think he's going to go in there and I think he's going to put on a performance. He's a finisher for sure. I don't think this goes to decision, at least not against somebody like Fugitt. So I'm going to go with Mike Malott by first round submission.
I will go next. Ever since Mike Malott has come into the UFC, I have been a big Mike Malott guy. I think he has a tremendous stature and build for welterweight. and my man is a finisher. He seems like a super nice guy. He's like an unassuming, super nice guy from Canada, but he has a serious skill set. He has very good power at 170 pounds. So give me Mike Malott by knockout. I think that Fugitt is a very tough guy. He's not going to get blown away in the very opening round. I would be surprised if he did. So give me Mike Malott, third round knockout. Okay, Mark.
Okay, Mike Malott, the favorite. He's minus 215. Fugitt is plus 170 as the underdog. Fugitt actually has a 4-inch reach advantage, which is an interesting wrinkle to this because it's not as if he doesn't carry some finishing ability. He does, especially if he could ever get on top of Malott and kind of be able to rain down with the long arms that he has. But like you guys, I've been impressed by Malott so far. I think that he can mostly keep this standing. I think he can outstrike Fugitt fairly consistently. I even think if it does hit the mat, that Malott's grappling could potentially shine there. So I think this is kind of one of those where the UFC must feel good about the matchup because I'm sure they're trying to build Malott and get him a win in front of the Canadian fans. There's not a ton of young Canadian stars at the moment. I'm sure they're hoping Malott can be one of them. You can tell that obviously by the placement in the feature fight here. But I think he's going to finish it. I'm with you guys. He's a finisher. I could see it either way. I think it really just depends on if more of this fight happens standing or on the mat. But I'll go TKO. I'll say round 2 TKO for Mike Malott.
Okay. That brings us to this co-main event of the evening. Woo-hoo. My God. So excited for this fight. Oh, my God. This is going to be a fight.
Mark's going to have a fucking heart attack is what it is.
No disrespect to these ladies in the main event, but this is the fight on this card that I'm going to have a heart attack going into the fight.
Yeah.
You know?
This is the main event.
Oh, my God. Okay, Charles do Bronx Oliveira taking on Beneil Dariush in the lightweight division. The former champ, Charles do Bronx, 33-year-old out of Sao Paulo, Brazil. He is 33-9 with 1 no contest, 21 victories by submission. Add another 9 knockouts to that. My man is a killer. Lost his belt in his last outing against Islam Makhachev back in October of 2022. Got finished in the second round by Mr. Makhachev. That snapped a 1 million fight win streak by Charles Oliveira. How many times did he win the belt from Gaethje? And was it vacant? Remind me.
He won the belt from Chandler.
From Chandler.
Not from Chandler. Vacant belt
against Chandler.
Yeah.
Defended it twice against Poirier and Gaethje.
Mm-hmm.
Also has wins over Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee, a number of other names. Charles has been around for a minute and has sort of fought a who's who in the UFC. All right, standing across from Beneil Dariush, another guy who has been around for a minute, has also fought a who's who, and has been mounting quite a resume as of late, with quite the highlight reel as well. Beneil, the 34-year-old, fighting out of California. He's 22-4 with 1 draw, 5 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submission, and he is riding a 8-fight UFC win streak in the lightweight division coming into this weekend. Give this man an effing title shot if he wins this fight.
I mean,
I know. Most recently, I should say, he looked incredible against the rising Mateusz Gamrot back in October. Mark, start us off this time. Give us the odds, your take, and ultimately your pick.
Okay, the odds.
it's got to be a pick'em.
The former champion is the underdog. He is
Disrespect.
plus 125.
Oh, my God.
Neil is minus 150.
Oh, shit. That's a lot more.
Disrespect.
I would guess that it probably opened very close and that the money has come in on Beneil. The reason I say that is because the whole world is picking Beneil. Every single thing that I have read or seen this week has been a pick for Beneil. I have not seen a human being pick Charles Oliveira yet, which is mind-blowing to me that we are just dismissing Charles Oliveira in this way. I get it that Beneil's on this absurd run. But your boy is going with Charles Oliveira, as you may have guessed. I get it. I love this guy. It's been well documented on this show that I'm a huge fan of Charles Oliveira. And maybe I am being blinded and I don't even realize it, but I truly feel like Charles Oliveira is going to win this fight. I forgot to say they're the same height, 2 inches of reach for Charles. Every time I break down this fight in my brain, I land on the fact that my X factor is the finishing ability that Charles Oliveira possesses in the striking. They are both utterly disgusting grapplers, and I pray we get some grappling exchanges here because they'll be incredible. And obviously Beneil is dangerous and carries power on the feet too, but I have a much harder time seeing Beneil shutting Charles' lights off with a shot than I do the other way around. Of course, Beneil's path to victory could be that he drops Charles and dives on top of him, like many others refuse to do because of the jiu-jitsu. Obviously, we saw Islam not be afraid to do it. Beneil could be in the same boat, and maybe he wins that way. I do get that Charles won't get this time to reset that we've seen him use against other guys who will drop him and then refuse to follow him to the floor. But I'm going to say Beneil gets caught in a flurry. You know Charles is going to come out hot, especially after how disappointed he was in his last performance. We've seen how hard he comes out. We've seen how quickly people like Poirier and Gaethje have been thrown off by the power that is coming back at them from Charles Oliveira and the accuracy of the shots that are hitting them. We've seen Beneil get blitzed before. I mean, we've also seen him survive a blitz and get his own KO, such as he did against Jakar Close. But we've seen that he can get caught in a blitz and get his lights put out. Think about Alexander Hernandez. And Charles can do the same thing. Not to mention, as unreal as Dariush looked against Gamrot, and I was one of the people saying it. I came on here and I raved about him. Part of me wonders if we're overrating his scrambling and grappling a bit. Because as good as Gamrot is, it was only 2 fights ago that he won a split decision over Diego Ferreira, where the scrambling was pretty even. Scrambling was pretty even. Grappling was pretty... I'm struggling. Where the grappling was pretty even throughout the whole fight. And Charles Oliveira ain't Diego Ferreira. So, I don't know. I could be spectacularly wrong here. Maybe the Charles run is going to come to an end as suddenly as it kind of came about. Maybe Beneil has just hit this crazy place where he's just not going to lose right now. It's all entirely possible. I mean, it's a fucking coin toss. We all know it's a coin toss. But I'm rolling with Charles Oliveira. I am going to say it is a round 2 knockout for Charles.
Wow, knockout for Charles. Wow. Okay, Omar.
This fight is terrible to pick, man. I can tell you that by the time this fight goes on, I'm just more interested to actually see it than I am to pick it, being 100% honest. But considering this is what we do on here, and considering I want a little bit of drama, I will be picking Beneil Dariush to win this fight. The reality is, man, is there's a lot of things here that aren't 100% for Charles. Like I feel like a lot of times they can be, right? We put a lot of value in his submission game and his ability to finish, and I just think that Dariush is not the easiest guy to finish in the world. And while he has been finished before, so is Charles. And Charles has been submitted quite a few times for all the submitting that he does as well. So we know that he has vulnerabilities. Maybe he's sharpened a lot of them up and tucked some of them away. But a fight can sometimes bring a lot of things to light that have been put away for quite some time. And Dariush is in a great spot right now. I think that Charles Oliveira, having come off of that loss to Islam, losing his belt, not going into a rematch with him, kind of, I don't want to say shying away from that rematch, shying away from that opportunity, but definitely not something that he was keen on taking, which makes you wonder where his head is at from a mental perspective. Dariush has been screaming at the heavens for the last 2 years to give him a goddamn title shot. So we know that this man is hungry, and he's trying to kill somebody to get that belt. So I'm going to roll with Dariush here, man. I don't know if he gets a finish here. If he does, I'll be honest. I think he submits Oliveira, but I do think it's a tall order. So I'm just going to stay safe here and go Dariush by unanimous decision.
Side note, it's fucking ridiculous that this isn't a 5-round fight. I mean, maybe it doesn't even make it through 3, but it's fucking stupid.
Oh, this is one of those times where I just automatically assumed it was 5 rounds.
Yeah, it feels like a 5-rounder.
I was going to say I think he takes 3 out of the 5, but
Yep, 3 fucking rounds.
boo. Hopefully it's a finish then, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm insulted that Charles do Bronx is the underdog in this fight. That is insulting to me. Given his record, his overall resume, that he's a former champ, he just literally lost the belt. And I will be taking Charles in this fight to win.
Let's go. Me and Mike versus the world, baby. And Charles. Me, Mike, and Charles. Excuse me.
Let's go. Yeah, I think. I mean, I do think it's going to be. I think it is a close fight on paper. I wouldn't have been that surprised if the odds might have been even a little bit closer. I go back to Charles's ace up his sleeve that Charles can take a punch, not meaning that he has a great chin, meaning like he could get rocked and kind of half fall down. And that's sort of like a insurance policy. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time.
We've touched on this before. Because it happened in his fights with Gaethje and Poirier and Chandler in recent memory, where it's like he has extra lives in the game. Like you can rock him, then if you go to the ground.
If he does that with Dariush is going to dive on top of him in 1 second.
That is correct. That is 100% correct. A lot of guys aren't going to chase that kid to the ground, which is why he does it in the first place. Because even rocked, that kid can still figure something out to keep himself safe. I think he just feels more comfortable being on the ground. But so does Dariush. Dariush wants to live on the ground as well. He's not necessarily looking to stand and bang with people when he goes in there. So the moment Oliveira gives him an opportunity to go down to the ground and throw some ground and pound, you bet your ass Dariush is going to be there on all fours doing just that.
I don't entirely agree. I think Dariush very much is a stander and a banger.
I'm not saying he can't. I'm saying that I feel like a lot of times his bread and butter is that ground game.
Yes,
that's
he's very good on the
his
ground.
bread and butter.
But I think Charles is better.
Sure.
I give Charles the nod there.
We're going to find out, son.
I don't think either of them have the crispest striking. I think Beneil is a bit more of a brawler.
Yeah.
But I think that there's sort of an even chance that each one of them could catch the other one. I think Charles is a bit more crisp. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Charles. And I'll say this fight has to end in a finish. It just has to. I feel like I can't sit here and take somebody by decision. I'll say Charles by a finish. I'll say 3rd round.
You're saying sub or knockout?
I'll say sub.
Charles's Muay Thai is very good. It's especially for his style and his approach to the fight.
Yeah,
his Muay Thai is very good.
I'm telling you, man.
Very aggressive.
It's my X factor, baby. I'm hoping.
Yeah, no, his striking. I think his striking. If we're going just striking for striking, I think his striking is significantly better than Dariush's is, because Dariush definitely does a lot of ducking under and just throwing hooks and things like that, trying to move inside and closing the distance. But Oliveira has a lot of good straight punches, long knees, which really help him out, especially when he wants to close the distance and enter the clinch. Those knees are like paramount for him to do that. So he's stand-up is going to be interesting, I think, for Oliveira. But I think at the end of the day, I think everybody who's watching that fight wants to see what happens when it hits the ground.
Oh, yeah, so badly.
Okay.
Dariush's confidence is in a hell of a place right now. I don't know if you guys saw the clip where they asked him about fighting Islam, and you hear other people get asked about it, and they're like, yeah, like, you know, obviously I have to think about how to counter the wrestling, and I think maybe I could do this, think maybe I could do that. Dariush was literally like, yeah, I can't see anything he does that's better than me. Like, he was literally like, I do everything better than him. Like, straight up. I was like, okay, Beneil, damn.
Dude, I was listening to Chael, as I do now. He's got another one on his list. Dariush.
Oh,
What? He says his name wrong?
Bro, he can't say a
Everyone's
name
fucking
right
wrong.
if it was written down in front of him phonetically. He is the worst.
He's such a talker. Why does he
Oh,
get his name
dude.
wrong?
Do you want to hear another one that's the worst? Sergey. Like, if Sergey wasn't the most common name.
Pavlovich?
What does he say?
Yeah, Sergey.
What does he say?
Yeah, see, you would even think, even Serge, like, you'd be okay with, right?
It's not Serge.
Sir G.
Come on.
Sergi?
Sergi.
He's clowning, man. He's clowning.
Yeah, he does.
Like I don't know. And if this is all a troll, it's amazing because he's doing this with like every other name. It's out of control. I think it's so crazy. And it like makes me sad in the car when I'm listening to him say these names just
How
so
can he get
terribly.
it so wrong? He is in the world. He's in the world. Like we are outside of it, commenting on it. He is in and of the world.
Dude, some people just have blockages with names. I remember I used to listen to Francesa a lot, Mike Francesa, and for years, like the best player, one of the best players in baseball, was Albert Pujols. Like you would hear the name Pujols 100 times.
Yeah, Pujols.
For a decade, Francesa called him Pullholtz. Pullholtz. And just did it for a decade straight, as if no one was ever like, "Hey, Mike, it's Pujols," and he never watched a broadcast. Not just uninterrupted, decade straight. Albert Pujols.
Pujols.
Yep.
Pujols.
Ariel
have these name blockages, man.
Ariel has called out Chael Sonnen before on like certain names, especially when he goes on the show and stuff like that. And Chael's like, "Yeah, I can't do it. Can't do it."
Oh my god.
All right.
Dude, nothing will ever take the cake of name pronunciations than the comedian Joey Diaz on Rogan.
God.
Oh god,
Fucking
yeah,
calling
he's
Khabib like Kalabib.
Yeah.
And what was he called? Stiopich.
Yeah.
Okay. Too much fun. Okay, main event time. Here we go. UFC 289. We have in the main event, headlining this event, once again, going down at the Rogers Centre in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Amanda Nunes defending her bantamweight title against Irene Aldana. Excuse me, is this the featherweight title? Or the bantamweight title? It is bantamweight.
Yep.
Second guess myself for a second. Okay, champion.
If it ain't Norma Dumont, baby, it's not the featherweight title. Let's go.
Dumont or bust.
That's right.
So we have Amanda the Lioness Nunes, the 35-year-old out of Bahia, Brazil. Her record stands at 22-5, 13 wins coming by way of knockout. Add 4 subs to that, brings you up to about an 80% finish rate. She lost her title back in December of 2021 to Juliana Pena, and then wrenched it back emphatically from Pena back in July of 2022, earning a dominant decision victory, winning the bantamweight title back. She will be standing across from the rising, the surging Irene Aldana, a 35-year-old out of Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. Her record stands at 14-6 with 8 knockouts. Add 3 subs to that. Only 3 of her wins have gone the distance. She's riding a 2-fight win streak coming into this title fight against Yana Santos and most recently Macy Chazon back in September, which was the now somewhat iconic liver upkick from the bottom knockout in round 3 of that fight. Tremendous stuff. Okay, Mark, start us off with the odds, your take on this fight, and ultimately your pick.
Amanda Nunes, minus 330 as the favorite. Irene Aldana, plus 250 underdog. Size is basically identical. There's an inch of height on the Aldana side. There's a half inch of reach on the Nunes side. I have a fairly weird feeling since this fight has been booked that Aldana may catch and drop Amanda Nunes. Her hands are just very crispy, and we've seen Nunes getting hit a little bit more these days, but I'm going to resist it. I'm going to make the smart pick. I'm going to say that Nunes will fight smart, that she'll use her wrestling, which is certainly the easiest path to victory here for her, because that's the way this should go. You'd like to think that's how she approaches this fight. And I'm not saying she can't strike with Aldana, because of course she can. She's fucking Amanda Nunes, excuse me. But it's better for her to have Aldana thinking about both. So I got to think she mixes it up here. She should not be letting Aldana feel totally comfortable that there's no takedown coming and that she can just strike freely, because when that happens, Aldana's really dangerous. It is another 135-pound fight for Amanda now, which I know she's loving less and less, and the cut, I feel like, is starting to wear on her a bit more as time goes on, but I do think she can still get this done. I mean, think about it. The Macy Chasson fight, like, yes, it was an unbelievable knockout from bottom, but she was getting out-wrestled by Macy Chasson before that happened. So I'd like to think Amanda Nunes can out-wrestle her as well. So I do think Aldana's live. Like I said, I love her boxing. There's kind of a vibe with these Mexican fighters right now where they're like all breaking through at once, so it almost feels like it's just going to happen here. But I will go with Amanda Nunes by... I didn't think about the bye now that I'm thinking about it. Will she finish her? I'm going to say by UD.
Omar?
Yeah. You know, it's hard to really gauge kind of where Amanda is in her career at this point, because, you know, we've been talking about her retirement for quite some time. I think there was something that I recently saw about her wanting or thinking about retiring after the Juliana Pena loss, and then was like, there's no way I'm leaving this sport with Juliana Pena having beaten me. So she went back and she did that again. And I'm never of the mindset that people that have their foot halfway out the door are in the best position for these high-level fights. I also think, and I was just listening to this today, I think it was, I don't know if it was Anakin Florian or who the hell it was. I don't remember who it was. But the whole silk sheet thing, right? It's difficult to get out of bed at 5 a.m., go for all these runs, cut all this weight, make all these sacrifices when you're wearing silk sheets or silk pajamas, right?
Right.
It is a different mindset, and we see the issues now with McGregor, right? We don't even know if McGregor is going to be fighting Chandler yet. Like, nothing's actually official, and this man is out here living his best life. So,
yeah, man.
I say all that really to say that I don't know where Amanda's mindset is, and while I don't think she's looking to lose, and obviously she's going to be fighting hard, I think once you start getting to that point, there is a bit of a complacency when it comes to the acceptance of a loss. And I don't think Irene Aldana is even with a toe in that water. Aldana is hungry. Aldana is looking to get that belt. I think Aldana knows she's in a very unique position as a result of the standings of bantamweight, right? Because the reality is Aldana's resume is not necessarily the flashiest. It's not necessarily the best resume, right? She's beaten recently Macy Chasson, which Mark said, you know, she got caught with a beautiful finish. But if you take that fight as a whole, it wasn't like that was a dominant performance, right? If you look at Yana Santos, that was probably a more, you know, something you can really put into the highlight reel as well as far as overall performance. And then before that, she lost to Holly Holm. And Holly Holm got her ass smoked by Amanda Nunes. And, you know, we don't need to do all this MMA math, but my point is, Aldana is in a position right now that she may not find herself in again if she loses this fight. And I think there's just too many things that might be working against Nunes in this fight, probably from a personal and maybe even from a striking perspective, that Aldana might be able to take and capitalize against. And if she can stuff a couple of takedowns, because it's not like Nunes has, like, you know, the greatest wrestling in the world. It is effective, and she does what she needs to do, and she definitely is able to take people down and control them on the ground. But if Aldana is able to keep her standing upright, this might be a more difficult night for Amanda Nunes than we think. I got to pick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, are you done? Are you going to make a pick?
No, that was
thanks
it.
For coming
that was
to
it.
my TED Talk.
I was just going to go there. I'm going to go with Aldana here. I'm going to go with Aldana on long shot.
Like it.
Knockout?
I think so, man. I don't know if she's gonna beat her for 3 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go Aldana, I feel like knockout's the way you got to go.
Yeah.
But are you going to go with Aldana by liver kick from her back?
You'll never see that again in a high level competition.
No.
Never again.
Crazy, dude. Crazy.
I'm gonna go with a 4th round knockout.
All right.
Okay. Over at Igo. You make very interesting points about the Silk Sheets thing. I know they have a little girl now, right? A little girl?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I'm not picking against Amanda Nunes. Not yet. Not yet. I mean, she just I'll say it again. She so emphatically got her belt back from Pena. You got to think, yeah, maybe she does just treat us like another day at the office now. Now that she is, compiling this resume of this title reign. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. I think it's probably, for her, it's a good thing. She knows she's so confident. She's so confident in her entire skill set. She's so confident in her hands and her power. I think she's just going to, Saturday night, she's going to work. It's time to eat for the Lioness, man. And until she really gets knocked off that pedestal, I think she had a weird off night in that first night against Pena. Don't we know that?
I totally agree. I think she was injured in camp, couldn't train. There was a lot that went into it.
There was also the fact that she switched camps, and that was the one that she officially started going to her own camp.
Yeah.
There was that whole drama with Kayla Harrison at ATT, and I don't think it was necessarily them favoring Kayla Harrison, but at the same time they were putting a lot of attention on Kayla Harrison when Amanda felt like, I'm the UFC champ, like, fucking I should be number one. I should be the one that's really taken care of here, and not the girl you guys kind of want to be the number one girl here. So there was a lot of that stuff going on. And like I said, man, for those people who don't think mindset and the mental game of life itself continuously fucking people on a daily basis doesn't play into how a fighter walks into that octagon, you are incredibly naive. And I just, like I said, I don't think that Amanda Nunes is in a point now where, with all these things kind of in front of her, right? The idea of retirement, which I think she's been playing around with for a little while. And personally, I think win or lose, I think we're going to see Amanda Nunes done at this one.
Really?
I think I do think she drops her gloves at the end. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Well,
Dude, if that happens, they're going to call Norma Dumont and be like, hey, Norma, can you make 135? Oh, no? All right. Nice doing business with you. You're released.
Bullshit.
oh, by the way, I didn't give my pick. I didn't give my pick. I think Aldana is super tough. I think I'm taking the same pick as Mark. I'll take UD for Nunes.
Mike, we have picked the same 6 people in these 6 fights.
Oh, my God.
Omar is on Aldana, on Dariush, and on Curtis. So there could be major movement from Senor Ortola.
I was going to say, Daddy's got a couple fucking picks to make up here.
Yeah.
Pretty low on this this list here. So, we'll see.
All right, boys. Let's end with a little bit of trivia.
All right.
Was that a Barriault trivia right there?
Yes. Mr. Jim Miller did a cool thing. He, in his long tenured career, he earned the fastest finish on his record now this past weekend. And this coming weekend, I will be meeting and introducing a unknown fighter by the name of John Jones. So in the spirit of Jim's fastest finish, what was John Jones's fastest finish in the UFC? He does have some finishes prior to the UFC that were like 14 seconds. I think when he fought Parker Porter in like some random promotion, he knocked out Parker Porter in like 30 seconds. In the UFC, he does have 4 first-round finishes. So I've narrowed it down. It neatly fits into a multiple choice.
Damn,
which
I was
of these
just gonna fill in the blank here. I thought
which
it was
of
fill in the
these
blank.
first
I
round
feel
finishes?
Like I know it, but I got to hear the choice.
Same.
Which of these first round finishes was his fastest finish in the UFC? All right. Was it A, Brandon Vera, B, Vladimir Matyushenko? If I'm saying that name wrong, I apologize. Matt,
No, that's good. That was right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
C, Chael Sonnen, or D, Cyril Gahn?
I mean, D is what was in my head.
Yeah.
But Vera and Matyushenko were so long ago that now I'm like, do I just not remember quite how those played out?
So my original thought was Matyushenko because I remember John basically just taking him down almost from jump, getting in the crucifix, and just raining shit on his face.
I remember the crucifix.
The Brandon Vera one I felt like took a little bit more time for him to break his face. I don't think that was a quick one, but I feel like the Matyushenko one was.
What was Gahn? Gahn had to be, 2 minutes? Less?
Yeah, man, I can't fucking remember. It had to have been like 2 minutes. Yeah, it was fast. Nothing even happened in that fight. Damn, the Cyril Gahn one's got me fucked up because I thought it was Matyushenko.
Yeah, I think it's Gahn or Matyushenko. I agree.
I'm gonna go with my initial. I'm gonna go with Matyushenko. That was my
All right,
initial
so
pick.
I'll go Gahn.
Yeah.
That was my initial. So
Okay. Chael Sonnen is out. That was in round one, at the end of round one at 4:33 at UFC 159 in a title defense. Brandon Vera is out. That was at 3:19 of round one.
That's about right.
Light heavyweight bout at UFC Live on Versus back in the day.
On Versus,
remember
baby.
those on
Let's
Versus.
go.
fucking
On
all-time shit
Versus.
right there.
Okay. The winner is Vladimir Matyushenko. Round one, 152 of round one in a lightweight bout.
Gahn had to be close. What was
Gahn
Gahn?
was 204.
Oh, man. Really fucking close.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I remember that Matyushenko fight. That was an ass beating. That wasn't even competitive at all. It's wild.
That was a good one. That was a good
That
one.
was good.
Thank you. Thank you.
We did it, boys. Look at us. Under
Did it,
215.
man. Under 215. What is this?
Very
Look
nice.
at that.
Very nice.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Well,
All right.
enjoy the fights this weekend. We have PFL 4, part of the regular season.
We were talking about it while you were away. The PFL is tomorrow night. So if you're sitting home on a Thursday night with nothing to do, pop on some PFL.
Dude, it's Thursday right now, bro.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true.
It is.
All right, boys. Hey, enjoy the pay-per-views. A lot of big fights. And catch me both on Boxing TV on Friday night. Warriors Cup 53, Road to 1. Announcing some belts for Warriors Cup themselves, for Gamma, for the WBC Muay Thai division, and in the Road to 1 lightweight tournament. I believe it is 2 semifinal fights in that Road to 1 tournament, with the winner earning a 6-figure contract with one championship. And then on Sunday, catch me on UFC Fight Pass for Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship Milwaukee Fight Night 2. Special guest host John Bones Jones. I will be introducing him, I believe, at the beginning, either of the beginning of the main card or right before the main event, is what I've been told. And Bilal Muhammad will also be there as a guest. So check that out, UFC Fight Pass. Get at me. That being said, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Huh? What?
Are you introing Bilal too?
I don't think so. I have not been told. I do what I'm told.
Yep. Fair enough.
All right, boys. Have a good night, folks, and we'll reconvene next week.
Thanks, people. Leave us some.
Love you.
Peace.
Peace.